Hello everybody and welcome to episode 2 of the Edge of the Mist tour. Today we are going to be looking at the desert area. I'm trying to rush this slightly. Oh no, there's no point. Now sadly, my server has lost our desert keep. Now that could seem like a bad thing, but it also might mean I can go to this commander here and show you guys a bit of actual combat here, which should be fun. So last episode in the guide, I talked to you guys about the general premise of the Edge of the Mist. I described the fact that there are 3 areas, one for each server, and we had an extensive look at the glacial area, the Gw2 area. This episode we're going to be looking at the deserts, and just like what we covered in the previous video, we're going to be having a look at each individual objective here. So every single area has its own keep, has its own tower, has a resource to fuel each, the resource warp supply directly to each location, and it's also got 3 unique objectives which are incredibly important for this map. Number 1, they give you points so that you can actually win the matchup. Number 2, they give you unique benefits depending on their location, such as being able to buy bundle items that are very powerful and affect the battle. And thirdly, the more of them you own, you give your server a global benefit of some kind. Previously, the global benefit was a great storm that would inhibit enemy movement within the icy territory. In the desert area, that's slightly different. I don't believe it's been changed. As I say, everything you guys see here, this is a work in progress map, so I do expect things to change as stuff goes along. What I say here might be out of date by the time it finally comes out. But the idea behind this area is instead of a storm that impacts everyone, there's actually a series of cannons all over the area. And the more objectives you own, the more powerful these cannons become. And the cannons are things that are actually manned by players. So, with all of that said, let's have a look at some of the objectives and some of the environment. I have less to say on this episode because I've already given you guys a lot of the information about what's going on here. So instead, we might have, I don't know, a bit more of a silent walkthrough through some areas where we just have a look at the art. Because, I mean, the snowy area was nice. I think this looks way better. And I will add that I think the jungle area looks even better. It's like got a real Lost City vibe to it. Anyway, so sort of the aesthetic here is we're in a desertish zone. Desert not necessarily being a particularly well explored region in Guild Wars 2. We've got a single PvP map. We've got elements of the Brisbane wildlands that are, you know, very dry, cragged rock. But otherwise, there's not been very much of that in Guild Wars 2. And this map really, this section of the map, I should say, really keys into it and is quite exciting to me. I've already mentioned it in a previous video. I like the idea that a lot of these assets have been created and could potentially be used in the future for something like the Crystal Desert. Because a lot of what I see here does remind me very much of the Crystal Desert. You know, these big towers, these ruined structures, all very similar to the Marganite stuff we saw previously. Now, a big change to the map as well since the last video I did, which really wasn't that long ago. Sentries are now a part of the Edge of the Mist. I'll try and stop flicking in and out of my map as well, by the way, guys. That was irritating me in the editing last episode. There are sentries. So now, all over the place, if you have a look, we've got real sentry locations. Sentries in regular World vs. World have a lot of place, I feel, because they won't kill Dolyacs passing, but they can intercept them, they can slow them down. But in this map, obviously, there are no Dolyacs. So my immediate question when I was thinking of sentries coming here was, what's the point in them? I don't believe they contribute to the point of the matchup, but that might be one reason why they're here. And also I've noticed that many of the sentry locations on this map are at choke points and thin areas. Okay, so if you want to move a small force of people through some of these locations, they always tend to be near bridges, and these enemies aren't just your typical guards like you get in the other maps. These are beefy guys. They're not champions, they're veterans, so they should be soloable, but you know, they have unique mechanics each. So this guy applies Torment and revives his pet, and he has Beastmaster's Bond on him, which means he's always regenerating his health while the pet's alive. So you've got real decisions to make here on these small fights. How do we take out each NPC? It's a lot more interesting than just slaughter every guard in sight, you know, before he can even use his heal skill. So, moving on. Here you get a bit more of a feel of the aesthetic of the desert area. Very char. Lots of, you know, real industrial sites, I suppose. The bridges here have got this kind of look to them. You know, they're big pipes with this iron grating all over them, and big pipes around cogs. It's all very dirty and very gritty here. As you get off of the airship, right now is actually a good example of what I've talked about in previous videos. If you don't own your keep, the only way to spawn is at these airships. It forces you back. I've got a commander over there, which I would like to go and have a look at soon, just so that we can flip the keep, hopefully, and then actually show you guys some of the stuff in there. Largely, the stuff in the keep will be much like what we saw in the previous keep. As I say, there's no guild claiming, there's no, like, building them up necessarily, so what you're seeing there is just sort of a particular NPC. It will actually be nice to fight against an NPC because I've been showing you guys a lot of them while I'm allied to them, but otherwise we haven't actually got much of a real experience of fighting them. We had the shrine last episode, but that was about it. One thing you'll notice about this map is there are a lot of odd areas and aspects of the terrain, the landscape, that are cool and they look nice, and I'm glad that they're there to be explored, but why would I ever want to come here, you know? Like, so I walked here, it's basically just a dead end. Some assets on the maps are a bit weird, like this pipe here. You might think, oh, what happens if I jump in that pipe, and then you just sort of land on this very weird solid black texture. Obviously none of it's final. And also a big thing about this map I have found as an explorer is much of the time you will want to jump down to a ledge of some kind and think, oh, that looks cool, I want to go explore that area. But should you do such a thing, you will find yourself in an area that you can never get back to, and you have to suicide and go all the way back to your airship, as it is for me, or the keep. And there's a lot of areas like that here, a lot. If you're ever tempted, oh, that looks like there could be something cool hidden there, there's never anything cool hidden there. It just spells your death. And I should have a good example of that somewhere nearby. I found one just before recording. Right now, we're just around the back of the keep, just sort of looking off. It's very bright here. Obviously, now that we're not in the snowy area, we really get to appreciate the daylight. One thing about this map, I don't know whether it's intentional, whether it's just because everything's work in progress, there is no day and night cycle here. Constantly, while I've been playing this and exploring it, I've been thinking to myself, oh, this looks so pretty. Oh, I'm being attacked. Is that by a guard in the place? I guess so, all the way up there. And my retaliation proc, that's awesome, from my defense against guards. Yeah, so I'm constantly wandering around thinking, oh, this looks so pretty. So look down there, for example. Oh, actually, I'm wrong about that area. That probably is... No, that's not anything significant. So, look, you could, like, that's exactly where I was before. You could walk along to the edge of this and then drop down even further and be like, oh, look, there could be cool hidden stuff there. There's not. It's just a weird area that you can go to with no reason. And I don't know whether I'm an advocate for removing those. I think it can be maybe a little bit frustrating to some players to constantly get stuck in those locations. I think there should always be a way back. I'm going to need to bail from these guys before that bleed absolutely owns me. I think there should always be a way back. But I don't necessarily think that just because there's an area with no real objective at the end, it's useless. I like that there are a little bit more areas to explore. And look at all this CC. See, this is what I'm talking about, guys. Like, everything just keeps you down on the floor constantly. As much as I've talked about how important stability is in this map, I've certainly not gone to any lengths to actually add it. But hey. So yeah, you've got these areas here. And I guess I'll just give you guys a little bit of a tour. I feel like I was in the middle of saying something else just now, before getting thrown off by whatever. And here you can see, like, there's a small floating rock here that's a little out of place. But, you know, this stuff will be fixed in time. And one thing that I'm actually really happy about this video series that I can do is, you know, it's somewhat useful to you guys to see, to learn a bit about the map. But also, it'll be really interesting to get that insight into how quickly things change internally at ArenaNet. You know, how quickly these maps are altered. And it'll be one of those nice things to look back at. You know, one of my favorite things to do is look at old beta footage for Guild Wars 2, where your dodge bar wasn't even this thing around your health. It was just a separate bar over here. And you had mana potions and stuff. That's always a really cool perspective to have, and I'm looking forward to be able to have that on, you know, videos like this when the Edge of the Mist finally comes out. So we don't own our keep. Do we have a commander assaulting it? Doesn't look like it. So instead, let's have a little bit of a look at the resources, shall we? No, I keep calling them resources. They're not resources. The unique objectives. Okay, so first, let's have a look at the worm tunnel. Previously, I talked about how the Kodan area... Oh, am I sort of moving into a different section as well? So here's something else I should explain about this map. A lot of it has sort of a floor above us, but also there's loads of hidden pathways and passageways underground through these small bridges here. And these are really interesting locations and cool places to take assaulting parties, to take objectives in a more stealthy way. Now, these sentries have been added, which make them a little bit more precarious, but it's a really cool idea, and I like it. There's a lot of risk-reward from traveling around areas like this. Very easy to get thrown off. I can imagine some very fun builds just playing like a high-stealth Mesmer that's running focus and just pulls people off the edge all day. Like, that could be really fun. If what makes you salivate the most about this map is the idea of battles over, you know, very thin ledges where people can fall to their doom very easily. If you like Skyhammer, basically, then it's preying on people underground that you're going to be having most fun with, I'm sure, and these are the areas for you. But here we got some oil. That's got something. Do you remember how in the snowy area we had ice blocks that we could harvest to collect ice blocks, which then we could trade for a bundle item? Well, the oil is sort of the desert equivalent of that. We've also got this wall, which isn't allied to us, of course, because we don't even own the keep right now, which is pretty interesting. We've got, if there wasn't a real player there, I'd probably fight this guy. Actually, let's fight him. Let's fight him. This bird master. He seemed to take quite a lot of damage to my retaliation, so he's still pretty tanky. They're all very tough. Like, this is an interesting map. I do feel like it is very dangerous to go alone in this map. Very dangerous. And yeah, my build's kind of sucky at the moment, but you can't expect everyone to have perfect builds. I think actually you probably can. You can expect players on the live client, like, will generally have much better gear and much stuff much more well suited to their playstyle than you're probably going to experience in these testing areas. And a necromancer came, so that really sucks, and that's really lame. So I guess I'll see you guys back at this wall, or instead, shall we go a different exit out of the airship? No, the other exit out of the airship just takes you like directly behind the keep, and there's very little else to see. So instead, I'll try and go to one of these objectives that isn't being where I won't be preyed on by loads of enemies, and I will see you guys in a second. So here we go. This is the sentry we stopped to examine earlier. Instead, let's take a right here. Let's take a right and move up this way. And again, this is like a very ogreish looking area, which is pretty cool. Like the architecture there. Again, what I said about the lore in the previous video, I still sort of stand by. I don't expect to see much decent lore in this at all. But who knows? Maybe there will be some. We'll have to see. I have noticed some things, particularly in the keep, last week when I was here, in the keep, you know, all these do not touch things all around Tyria at the moment. There was one of those in the keep, so maybe this is going to be coming as a part of a Living Story update itself, and there's going to be a real plot for the reason why we come here, to do with those do not touch things. And there are also Aether Blade airships that were assaulting places at 1.2, which was also an interesting idea, and maybe we'll see some this episode. Alright, so anyway, we are currently at the workshop, the Beastmaster's workshop, I think it's called. Yeah, the Beastmaster workshop. It's actually underground, this one, so you can see the big lights shining up to the sky. These actually show you where your objectives are for quite some range as well. So, oh, am I going to die from that? I am. Damn it! Ah, this map. Okay, I'll be right back again in a second, guys. So, this objective is not high up. This is actually one that's sort of in the more undergroundy type areas. Alright, so instead of doing all that craziness, instead, let's come down. Now, here's something I'm curious about. Because we don't own our keep, the cannons I was talking to you guys about earlier, this probably means we don't have access to those either, and we can't activate them, which would suck. And I'd love to show that to you guys, so hopefully we do manage to flip that at some point. Seems pretty ridiculous that they've managed to get so far in our territory so quickly. But here, so this would be the champion we have to defeat so that we could capture this if we were an assaulting party. Right now, the event is just to defend this guy, and we can speak to the chart engineer to get access to the unique thing to do with this, the bonus, which will transform us into a Mecha Devourer. So we can buy a transform. The dialogue there says buy a transform, and I believe that will later involve like spending badges of honor in a similar way to how we bought the hammer previously with badges of honor too. But that would mean that the desert area has 2 objectives which require players to spend badges of honor, while the snowy area only has 1 and the jungle only has 1, so people might say that's imbalanced and that might change, but hey. Anyway, so yeah, this turns you into a Mecha Devourer. Doesn't give me any more vitality. If we have a look at my stats here, it's not affected my stats whatsoever. We have 2 abilities. We have Slash and we have Devourer Siege, which is a big AoE that you can't use close to you, so it would seem, on a 2-second cooldown as well, so very short cooldown. I'm not sure how much damage this siege really does at all. What's the range distance on it as well is what I'm also curious about. So I'm really not sure. It doesn't have great range either. What that looks like, maybe 1500 tops, 1200 more likely. So what is the utility of this? Why would we want this if we're comparing this to objectives found in other areas of the maps? Is it balanced at the moment? Well, no, I don't think it is, but I also think it is very placeholder. I'm kind of thrilled by the idea of you being able to, because it's just called the Beastmaster Workshop right now, okay? So it could be more than Devourers that you eventually be able to turn into. I'm thrilled by the idea of this being like a way to disguise yourself, so you don't appear as Ballis Pass Invader anymore, you just appear as Devourer, or one of many other creatures, and maybe you can slip past people somehow. Could be interesting, but again, to compare that to something in the jungle area, which just makes you invulnerable as a scouting mechanism, it wouldn't be balanced. So perhaps this will be something more focused to do with sieging, getting on walls and using this siege ability. It also harkens a little bit back to Guild Wars 1 as well, in which there were giant siege devourers, much, much, much bigger than this little guy here. Maybe that's what they're going to do. Maybe they're just going to turn them into real siege devourers. And, I mean, there's still siege devourers in Guild Wars 2 as well, but, like, you could ride them like mounts in the first game, and this would be kind of interesting to see come back in some form. But, yeah, so you can turn into this guy at the Beastmaster Workshop. Now, let's have a look at the worm area, which isn't underground, it's higher up. So, wow, it says I've been recording for 17 minutes already. I was worried that this was going to be a really short video, but I guess not. I guess we're fine. Oh, did we just flip our keep? No, we didn't. I'm constantly looking there, constantly thinking about it. Okay, so, and again, this event's been completed here, but basically to, oh, actually, we need to capture this, I guess. Interesting. So this event involves you picking up these thumper turrets around the area and using them on the ground, which summons worms. This is a lot like one of the events you see early on in Dsesert Plateau, in the regular PvE world. And the worms are summoned up, there we go, like that, by using the thumper turrets. And if I was assaulting this location, they would be hostile to me, and I would damage them, I would kill them, and it would help me push the event to eventually capture this location. And you would then have the worms as allies. Now, why would you need worms as allies? Because it gives you access to their tunnels. This is very, very cool. Now, let me bring you back to this idea of the monastery, the Gw2 sanctuary, I should say. Very defensive in nature, right? Most of the buffs, especially the Blizzard, is all about within your own area. The desert gives you access to these wormholes, quite literally, that magically, once you step into them, teleport you ages across the map. And you can send whole zergs through these things. So earlier we were over here, we've just moved all the way to the north, beyond the jungle tower, on the border of the jungle zone. Now, even better than that, this isn't the only tunnel in the area. There are loads of them. There's a tunnel that comes out, like, here somewhere, and, like, the entrance is somewhere near the center, I think. There's loads. I don't know specifically how many there are. I can't give you a detailed map showing you every single one. But it's a really interesting idea that this one, now, you see, is much more about mobility and being offensive as a bonus. And of course, again, think about it not just from a defending perspective, but from an offensive perspective. I, as a member of this server, might decide that I want to come and take this objective just so that it gives me a better route of access into their keep, or maybe even into the jungle keep. Very cool, and there's loads of these all over the place. I'll take this opportunity as well, since we managed to go through that wormhole, to show you guys the tower up here. There's actually an enemy sentry here. Do you think I can fight it? I really should have changed my build so that I actually felt more comfortable doing this kind of thing. We'll get rid of the Signet of Air and add Arcane Power and just see what we got. Alright. Let's see if we can kill this single Gw2 shield bearer who's blocking at the moment. Frost block. Time left 8 minutes? What are you talking about? Okay, clearly that was placeholder and not true. But geez, like, I just do no damage to him at all. They do get... now there's an engineer here. I've got to bail. There's no way I'm going to fight both of them together. Alright, so we'll head up to the tower, which also isn't controlled by us. Oh, this is not great. Green team, I hate you, green team. Pushing into the desert and ruining my tour. This is the second tower that we haven't been able to show yet. It's okay, though, because when I do a video on the center of the map, we can perhaps spend some time there looking at the towers. Because I feel like the towers are sort of an extension of the center of the map. The towers serve as blockades, basically, from the center into people's territories, and you're gonna have to get through those towers. Obviously they give you points, but they're just placed in strategically important locations, and that's what makes them kind of significant. Also the fact that they can stockpile supply, which your server's going to want to grab, obviously, to give you an upper hand in siege warfare and repairing your keeps and your walls and setting up siege and so forth. So that was the wormhole there on the left, just behind that pillar. I love the way that this area looks. Like, just a lot of the ruins remind me of GW1. There was one of those... Oh, so this guy's an enemy as well. I'll just blind him and move on by. There was a statue as well that I saw and recognized from the Fractals of the Mist earlier. And I was checking it to see whether it had 3 eyes, potentially, because of that anomaly and the new Living Story mission for the Fractals. Like, the anomaly that was at the Thormanova reactor for some reason has 3 eyes. And, like, I've been very curious about that since someone told me. So I'm actually being shot at by these turrets here. Ah! So actually they don't have to be activated by players. I completely take it back then, guys. The turrets are passive and don't have to be triggered by players. Let's have a look at the final objective, shall we? Which is the desert airport, and again is not in our favour. Actually, guys, I'm going to cut it until we've got some of this stuff, because this isn't a very good tour if we don't have any. So I'll see you guys in however long, and we'll see what we can do. Wow, I just have like the worst luck in the world, clearly. Literally, just as I said that, the commander took a group of people into our keep and flipped it. I really wanted to get some footage of us actually in the fight. Oh man, I suppose this is just a guided tour though, so we don't need to see too much combat. You guys know what world versus world combat's like. I mostly just want to show off what the NPCs look like. But hey, look, so we set up some flame rams here, not even superior rams, we just set them up, took the keep. So this is the inside of the desert keep. Very cool, it's like a very fortish location. This is the thing, look, the do not touch things that we've been seeing all around the world. This looks just like those. Nobody's commented on it, as far as I know, that's testing the map out. I don't know how many people pay attention to that kind of thing. But this definitely looks just like that, and I'm wondering whether that's an accident. These ones are just green instead of orange, which are the current ones we're seeing. So the depot here is completely empty in the keep, but hey, there you go. The waypoint, as you can see as well, only just flipped, so the waypoint is actually already accessible to us, which therefore shows that you don't have to upgrade places like this. And yeah, this is just the inside of the keep, which I'm glad I've been able to show off to you guys. I also believe they're going for the tower to the south now as well. So hopefully I'll get over there and show you guys that off. That's technically not the oh no, that is the desert tower. What I was showing you guys just now was the jungle tower. Also, this is what I wanted to talk about. You got this bridge here. Again, bridges, we've talked about it before. This one is actually, you won't die from full damage to fall here, but if you've got a big group assaulting the front gate of the keep along this long bridge, this is a great opportunity to try and break it as people are crossing, which is a very cool idea. We got a sentry underneath, as well as a supply generator there. And the airport is the final objective, which sadly is still green. But we'll go assault that tower and give you guys a little bit of footage of that. And then hopefully we'll go get the airport afterwards. Wow, it just flipped right under my nose. Literally, as I was headed over to the tower, the airport just flipped. I didn't even see it. What I'll probably do, guys, is perhaps another video, which is like a montage of me running around in a Zerg, sort of in a live environment, so we can see a lot of the fights and stuff. But here we go. Here's the airport itself. Very cool Aether Blade looking airship here. And once again, just like we had before, we've got a dynamic event chain associated with this, which involves going off and collecting a bunch of stuff. So again, there's no dialogue here, but we want to collect barrels of oil, okay? And you get such oil from these little oil spouts. There were actually some back the other way, which I'll go have a look at here. So here you can see, I wouldn't be surprised if you could actually go in that airship and explore inside it, though I doubt there'd be anything in there. Maybe we'll have a look at that in a second. But you find oil from all around the area to fuel the airship, I suppose, will be the reason why we're getting it. And eventually you'll be able to buy a consumable, much in the same way we could buy hammers before. So you get it from these, but I'm not sure exactly how we collect it, which is very curious. Okay, so for some odd reason, the oil slicks that are pumping up around here don't seem to be allowing me to collect the oil, which is a real shame. But basically, the idea here is we would collect it all, we'd run the 10 back to this guy, and then you can buy a consumable item which gives you an ability that, much like the hammer, allows you to do different things during the fights. And this one, it calls in an airstrike. The idea is that an airship would come along and bombard the area. I don't think the animation is quite that elaborate, but it's a 1500 range. As far as I'm aware, again, numbers can change, but it's a long range, big ability that summons, you know, a lot of damage into a specific area. And that's the desert's version of the hammer that you could buy in the Gw2 Sanctuary. So, and that's what you get from the airport, which is pretty cool. Also, the airship, I did just try and go inside it, and it didn't work at all, which kind of sucked. So, yeah, apparently you can't go inside there, and there's nothing really to see in there anyway. There's, like, invisible walls. So, lastly, those are the three objectives. One's the wormholes, one's the airship, and one is the Beastmaster's workshop. Lastly, again, now that I actually own the keep, I can show you guys these turrets that were automatically and randomly shooting me earlier. Not only will they passively do that to enemies, but also you can climb in them for yourself. Should be able to. Oh, maybe they just completely changed their functionality entirely, which I think is a good idea if that is indeed what they've done here, because before it was a very passive thing, and then it was sort of a very it was so different, you know. But yeah, so apparently we can't. It used to be that you could climb in these turrets, but there you go, things change quite quickly. And that's the way it is, which is a shame. I actually always like the turrets and stuff, but they're rarely used in Guild Wars 2. Like at Steel Eye Span in the Blaze Ridge Steppes, there's all those really cool turrets you can fire, but there's just no need to use them. And the way they're implemented, enemies just start immediately regenerating health and stuff anyway. It just kind of sucks. Anyway, so there we go, guys. This has been the desert area of the Edge of the Mist. I hope you've enjoyed. Next time we will be having a look at the jungle region, and maybe we'll do the central region as well while we're at it, since there's not too much in the center to see. Jungle is probably my favorite. This one's been looking very cool though, so I hope you guys enjoyed. Leave any questions you may have down in the comment section below, and I guess I will catch you next time for the Lost Cities style area. It should be very, very cool. See you next time, everybody.